Hi everyone, I'm Renee Huang. I'm the host of the Ignite podcast and founder of Wild Women Tribe in partnership with Park City TV. We are joined today by Kristi, Woolley, and Eyee Hsu, and we are going to dive into the topic of creating possibilities, creating opportunities. So welcome ladies, welcome to the hot seat as you were calling it.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of creating opportunities, it's an opportunity to be sitting here with the two of you.
I feel the same.
Wonderful.
Yeah, Ignite is really one of those podcasts where I wanted to draw together women who are doing really fascinating things in the community and in their own lives and talk about topics that really matter to us. And so you can be from different industries, different backgrounds, but I think we all find commonality. So I'm excited to really
Thanks
dive
for
into
bringing
this.
us together.
Yeah. So I wanted to start with maybe telling a little background about you. You do both have different backgrounds, but I think that idea of opportunity has really been a common thread. So can you kind of introduce how you are involved in the community and what projects you're working on?
Sure.
You go ahead.
Oh.
You go first.
Well, I'm new to the community, so I just moved here, and I keep saying new, but it's, you know, I've been here for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Time just flies. But I moved here after 15 years living and working in Beijing. So I was in broadcasting in Beijing. I hosted 2 programs on CCTV, which is China's largest broadcaster.
She's been called the Oprah of China.
By so very few people, maybe my husband.
So you're being very modest, and I've known you for a couple of years since being here, and you have not even brought it up. So this is kind of like exciting for me to delve into a part of you that I don't know.
It's like the secret.
It's exciting.
It was fun, but it was also a chapter. I mean, speaking of opportunities, it was a chapter that I kind of closed back in China when we decided to move to the States, and I decided, actually probably about a couple years before moving to China, that what I really wanted to use my communications and media experience, and I was a management consultant previous to going into broadcasting. I was thinking, okay, if I could take this business, this media experience to come together and really do something that of value and related to social impact, and really create impact in that area, that's what I would like to dedicate I would say the next decade of my life, or maybe the remainder of my career. So yeah, that's my brief story.
That's exciting. And then Kristi, we actually met when our kids were really babies, and I just moved into town, and you and your husband were kind of like bootstrapping this little company that has now gone on to be like the biggest beauty product company worldwide, and you guys recently sold. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was a whirlwind in the beginning. We started back in 2004. And we just were given the opportunity. Someone asked us to source human hair. We were on a trip in China, got the call, and he stayed on a little bit longer to go meet with some factories, and that was the end. Like we're always looking for that niche product of what we were going to be starting our own company with, and that ended up being our first product, hair extensions, and it grew to be the largest hair extension company in the world. So yeah, and we bootstrapped it from the beginning. You knew me back then, just going to the park every day. We were running it out of our little home on Park Avenue, and it was a lot of work.
So talk to me about that idea of opportunity, because I think a lot of times we look at that word and we think, well, it's just for people who are lucky. You know, the stars align and you have to have the right thing at the right time. But I think opportunity really comes from a lot of perspective as well. Sometimes things happen that might be perceived as negative, but that paves the way if you have the right attitude to turn it into an opportunity. I mean, can you talk a little bit, Eyee, about what that word means to you?
So in preparation for this program, I actually looked at, I use this term opportunity, I don't know how many times a day, but, and I think we use it in colloquial language a lot, just in conversations. And so I looked it up, and the Oxford Dictionary, did you look it up, the actual definition of opportunity? Because, you think, oh, it's a chance, but I looked it up, and the Oxford Dictionary definition is, an opportunity is a time or set of circumstances that makes it possible to do something.
That's amazing.
And I was like, wow, that is really profound because one, it's a set of circumstances.
Right. Not
there's
negative or positive
right.
necessarily.
And I think those circumstances can be, it's timing, it's your environment, it's like the people who are surrounding you, and then it makes it possible for you to do something. And I don't think it needs to be something that's grandiose, like some amazing impact, but it's something that, it can make you happy. It can make the people around you happy. It could be small, it could be big, it could be anything. But, I do agree with you, like opportunity, it's all about perspective. I was thinking as I was driving over here that, every day, every moment, there's an opportunity. There's a chance to do something. And for me, an opportunity means like there's a chance for you to learn something new, a chance to explore, to have a new experience. And I think if you have a sense of adventure and you want to try things new, like opportunities they'll gravitate towards you.
I believe in that as well. I think that it's almost like the law of attraction. If you believe that those things are there, they're there. And I know this only because I've lived my life in two separate ways. The first part of my life, I thought that everything was luck. Everything was like, yes, okay, we're going to draw this card for you. Oh, you didn't take it, gone, no more opportunities. Or it was all luck. I just kind of lived that way. I didn't know that there was actually possibility to like grasp that and like run with it, and that you could create opportunity out of everything around you.
Even negative.
Oh, negative especially,
right?
because I thought negative was like, oh, that was burned bridge, no opportunity. But what I've learned now, mainly from my husband, is where he switched my mindset, was everything is an opportunity. And often the ones that look like challenges are the greatest opportunities. Here's a problem. Now what can we do with it? And I remember one of the great things he did was we set up suppliers in all of the states in the United States, but they didn't want to have competing. Then other suppliers in that same state would come to us. They're like, we want to carry your product as well, but there was non-compete with them. So we couldn't have the same brand in two different stores in the same state. So he's like, well, let's just create another brand. We'll just compete with ourselves. If they're going to go to someone else, they might as well go to another company that's ours. So that's where it became, we're just creating more brands and more brands for these other suppliers and competing with ourselves. That was one way, but like his mind was always thinking, here's a problem, let's solve it. And it was another opportunity.
Well, and it sounds like he's very positive, because even when you fail, even when you have those mistakes, like
you'll learn from it.
Yeah, it creates an opportunity for him to learn and improve and be better.
And how do you take those parts of life that might be interpreted as negative or failure and turn them into opportunity?
It's a good question. I mean, I really think it's a mindset, and trust me, there's been times in my life that you're really down and you're like, God, how can I get myself out of this? And sometimes you have to be in that negative. Like you can't always feign that you're positive and happy all the time. I think there are times when you have to sit in that emotion. You have to embrace it. You have to embrace whatever it might be, depression or unhappiness, and that feeling of gray. But there's a moment, and I think it's human nature. I think there's a moment when you get to a point and you're like, I don't want to live the rest of my, and I'm going to do something about it. I've been very blessed and lucky to have just a great support network. And, you mentioned your husband, and my husband and my family and the friends around me. I mean, they're the ones who will lift me up when I need it. And I think that is integral. I mean, not only in terms of creating opportunity, we're talking about the underpinnings of opportunity as like this positivity, but it's, your outlook on life kind of depends on those relationships around you.
And allowing yourself to kind of sit in wherever you are to allow like the next possibility to come in, right?
And honoring that phase.
Exactly.
And you can't force it, right? I mean, I think sometimes we try so much. We're a society built on doers, right? Like we measure our success based on how much we do and how much we accomplish, whatever that term might mean. And so to undo that and to say, well, I want to look at use the word underpinnings, the real motivations, the purpose behind that, I think takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of risk, and it takes like being okay with putting yourself out there at risk for not having the outcome that you might initially want.
Right.
And being kind of flexible and creative enough to say, okay, well, this might go in a different direction.
Yeah.
And not to have too much pride. I think pride sometimes gets in the way.
Very much.
You know, you get this opportunity and you're like, oh God, what if I fail at
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
And if we can step away from that and realize that,
Trust.
yes, like you said, trust, having that courage to move and put yourself out there, like that's when these opportunities will come to you.
I even have an experience, not even in the working world, of trusting that mindset, but also, I may have mentioned to you, my daughter, when she was sick, was diagnosed with cancer, bone cancer, and that shook me. That rocked my mindset of, create opportunity with this. And it was a lot of fear and the what's going to happen. And I got to see firsthand what happens when I am consumed with fear. And every symptom that the doctor said she could get, she got that first month, from the mouth sores and the fevers and the throwing up and the bloody nose, all the things that come from the chemotherapy, she was getting them. And I was in this is happening to us.
Right.
Nothing we can do can control this. This is like going to just destroy us.
Right, right.
And I had this awakening one day, like, wait a minute, after I'd wallowed in my misery and just been in that place for about a month, I thought, wait a minute, this isn't even me. This isn't the way I think. I know this stuff. Like, this is a gift. This is an opportunity for us to learn and to grow, and like, we can make this whatever we want and not let it destroy us. And from that point on, we took the mindset of, this is beautiful. This is here to bless us. We love this opportunity. And we would honor the cancer. And I remember my daughter praying at night to God, thanking him for her cancer, because it was teaching her to do hard things.
Right.
And with that love, we'd go to the hospital, and it was, how do we make this positive? And she was doing little service projects for the other kids and the nurses, or decorating her room, or just making it what she wanted. And it changed her whole experience.
That's beautiful. And her whole perspective on life, and your perspective on life, right?
Well,
and
someone asked her the other day, they're like, oh, how was that having cancer? She's like, I miss my cancer. I loved having cancer. She literally says, I love my cancer. And
wow.
she, on days, she'll be like, Mom, I kind of miss it. I'm like, oh, that's understandable. Like, it was a beautiful thing.
And you say, but we don't want it back.
And I say, all right, let's like, are you sure you want to go through that again? And she's like, no, I think I'm okay.
But you've talked about it being a gift to your family, right?
Oh,
to
for
teach
sure.
you the opportunity of confronting it with love instead of fear, because they talk about, fear and love, that's kind of the perspective through which we approach life, right? And how beautiful that you were able to go through that and shift and lead by example for your family.
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, talking about health, I just thought, when I had my son, and he was born in October of 2009, and a month and a half later, I don't know if I told you this story, Renee, but I have this kidney tumor, and it's congenital. It's not malignant, it's benign, but and I discovered it when I was in my early 20s. Well, when I forgot, when we moved to China 15 years ago, back in 2002, there was just so much going on, I kind of forgot that I had this. So after two consecutive pregnancies, in the middle of the night, my son was 7 weeks pregnant, and it burst.
Oh, wow.
It grew to 11 centimeters. It was the size of a huge grapefruit in my kidney. It burst. I was in China. It was a Sunday, going in the emergency room. I was bleeding out. We couldn't figure out what was happening. I mean, blood transfusions, everything. I was I'm going to say I was lucky, because we were able to find the right specialists and doctors to take care of me. But I was in the hospital for a very long time, and it was, for somebody who's very active, and it's terrible. I couldn't walk. There was trauma. I had 2 liters of blood this is a little too graphic, but 2 liters of blood in my abdomen that I had to absorb. And it was a really dark year. But when I think about that opportunity and what that experience has presented to my life and the way that I look at life, it was really profound. And I think since then, it's guided the way that I look at, don't worry about these little tiny trivial matters, and really focus on relationships and family, and that sort of opportunity to learn was huge. And I think it was a message to me as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
What other mindsets have you had to confront and maybe overcome and create in your life in order to see the opportunity in things? I mean, how do you know when something's an opportunity? And we talked a little bit before about effortlessness and flow. And so can you talk a little bit about how you kind of frame your mind that way?
When you speak of flow, you know, things, I just see like things are coming easily. You're in that flow. You're on the wave. You're riding it, and the opportunities are coming. And I think for me, it's been, we spoke of this a little bit earlier, of finding that passion and that gift. And when you're following your heart and doing things that are natural to you, then the opportunities do seem more effortless, and they just seem to come to you. And I know that over the years, as I've developed my own personal interests, you know, the personal healing, the emotional, spiritual wellness of others and myself, those types of opportunities just flowed into my life. And I love helping people discover those natural gifts that they are born with, those talents that they just came with. You were given gifts, but like before you came here, let's say, that are a part of you today, and you're drawn to those things. And it does feel effortless, even if there are challenges or obstacles, and they just keep coming. So that's, I think it just feels natural is the thing that comes to mind. It's not so much of a force and a go get it. There's not so much exertion, it's more of it's coming, and wow, this feels right. It sets right. Let's take this opportunity, see where that goes. And there's no fear, like we talked of the fear, there's no fear of not getting or not achieving or not, it's just, it's all coming, and trusting like whatever is meant to be, it's coming my way, and just grabbing onto those and seeing where they go with excitement and making what you can of them.
It's a very comfortable feeling. Having said that, I think sometimes to create more opportunities, you do have to have a level, put yourself in an uncomfortable position.
Yes.
Because that's when the challenge and the risk comes, and you know, without those, you can't have the reward. You know, I've moved to Park City, and as you've mentioned, like I don't mention my I don't mention my past career or that sort of piece because I'm trying to reinvent something new. But it's tough. I mean, sometimes, you know, the insecurity you know, in my 40s, and yet there's a lot of insecurity. It's a new community, new people. How do I kind of fit in and adapt to this and really make connections? So there have been times when, you know, I feel like, yes, I need to put myself out there. And gosh, I would love to be in my pajamas in my house all day because I'm really not a natural extrovert. I like to be in my home with my close friends and my family. But, you know, last year I was invited by Al Gore's Climate Reality Project to, and this has been a while, I moved in 2017. I've been kind of, you know, off the grid, you know, off radar for about a year. And they contacted me. I'd done some work for them in China. And they said, well, you know, we're having the largest training that we're ever doing in August. It's 2,500 people, and we'd like you to MC the first day.
And this was the first tip-off that you weren't just like...
And I was terrified. I was
family mom who moved from Beijing, because you put these things on Facebook. I'm like, why is she emceeing at an Al Gore event? I mean, it was amazing, but at the same time...
But I was thinking to myself, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not used to this anymore, and I'm not used to being on a stage with 2,500 people. I'm not used to doing this in the United States. I'm used to doing it in a place, you know, in a very different environment. And yeah, I mean, again, my husband comes to the rescue. He's like, God, like, why wouldn't you do this? Like, just go and have fun. And it was magical. It was magnificent. Wow. But I mean, it takes that like, oh God, I got to get off the couch and I got to go. Yep. Because sometimes you just really don't want to.
Right. And I think if you let those opportunities pass, then there's more that pass. Like there's almost like this window of time that you have to wait for the next great opportunity, because if you're not in that mindset of let's create this, because we are creators, and I believe like if we're in the mindset I'm going to create, then the opportunities come. And if we just let them go like, oh, actually no, I do want to like sit in my pajamas, then okay, missed opportunity.
I love sitting in my pajamas.
Isn't it great? It feels good.
But like, what do you do with that feeling? You know, I want to kind of get you guys to talk about that, because I think everyone feels that feeling every single day. You know, Eyee, you were talking about opportunities presenting themselves. So what do you do with that nervousness of going to a social event where you don't know anyone, right? That's like a little example, or, you know, a big event where you're kind of putting yourself out there in the public sphere. I mean, what do you do with that fear?
That's a good question. I mean, the support network again. I talk to my husband, my mom, talk to her a lot. I talk to my friends, and they're usually the ones that are like, they have the most, you're always the most self-critical and thinking, oh my gosh, you know, like, I can't do this, or I'm gonna make a fool of myself, or you know, I'm not ready to put myself out there. But it is mostly likely that your friends and the people who really love you, who are the ones who believe in you and know that you can do it. So it's that, and I feel like sometimes, and I don't even, like, I can't put a finger on it, but I feel like sometimes, like, it just clicks in your head. It's like, I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna overthink this. Let's just go and do it. And
So get out of your head.
yeah, you gotta get out
head.
of your head and overanalyze.
So I have my own little ritual I do every morning where I get up early before my kids get up, usually around 4:35, and I have my time. So it's where those false beliefs are coming up, things that are holding back, that's my time to question those. And I have the different things, modalities that I've learned that help me overcome those things that are holding me back.
Right.
If I have something emotional coming up, okay, let's look at that. Let's not stuff that back down. Look at that, process through it.
Do you write, or do you meditate?
I will do it through meditation. I have different ways that there's like a program I studied through Byron Katie, Loving What Is, and it's asking for questions for any false belief, you know, and finding the truth. I also get out into nature every day. After that, I get out and I process a lot. Just like I'm out jogging and I'm thinking of these things, listening to, maybe it's a great podcast or inspiring speaker or something. I'm listening to things and it inspires me to, like, okay, reminds me of who I am, really. Because when we get into our head, it's all false. We're telling ourselves lies. And so if I can get out of my head and get out in nature and connect with who I really am, that's when things flow and it's like, no, this is great. It's a great opportunity. And I can see clearly, feel more at peace with myself and get rid of those false beliefs.
I agree with you. I think nature, and well, which is why what you're doing with Wild Women Tribe is so important, because I think nature's that one element that
Healing
just
element,
grounds
yeah.
us, you know, and makes us feel connected to each other too.
Well, that was one of the reasons I started it,
Right.
because, you know, I felt that connection myself every time I set the time aside. But, you know, there's all of those things that we tell ourselves, the stories, like, I'm too busy, I have all these other obligations, I have responsibilities, I just don't have time.
Yeah.
But realizing for me and prioritizing that and realizing that when I set time aside for myself, then everything else kind of
Everything
Yeah.
flows. There's that flow
clicks.
again.
Yeah,
It comes.
I think that meditative hike in nature, like, can really help you. Kind of like the little things just kind of fall away, and then you can have a clearer vision.
And
of what
understanding
you need to
yourself,
do.
because like my husband,
Yes.
he's a night owl. He gets all of his meditative time at night after we're all in bed. And that works for him. But me, I would not get one meditative thought in my head. I'd be asleep, because I am an early bird. I want to be up before, like, with the birds, like 4:30 in the morning, and I'm like, yes, let's conquer the world. But he's asleep. So knowing yourself and making that time and committing to it, like, how important are we to ourselves? And I know I have 4 kids. I'm not going to make the time later in the day. And I won't have the energy to do it because I won't have taken that time for myself. So
I'm glad you said that, because I feel like one of the first things, you know, steps to creating opportunities is really this awareness, you know, the self-awareness and self-knowledge. You know, we talked about what are the things that feel natural, what are the things that you enjoy doing, because that's when your passions can develop and that's when the opportunities will come to you. So yeah, having that time for yourself is so important.
it's very important.
And I think that's scary for people because, you know, we're in such a cluttered and disconnected time in our lives. You know, there's social media, there's all this perception of connection happening through a screen, which is like for the most part, just curated and false.
Yeah.
And then there's all this isolation at the same time. So I think one of the scariest first steps really is spend time by yourself.
Yeah.
You know, go by yourself. I mean, community is important to bounce ideas off and have that support network, but you have to start with yourself first and have a point of view and a perspective and really know yourself well enough to speak that.
Yes,
Right.
because you could ask many people, do you know what your strengths are? Do you know what your gifts are? And many, it alarms me, I don't know if I even have a talent or a gift. And they see everyone else's gifts being portrayed through social media, and it makes us feel like we have nothing to offer. Where if we spend time alone with ourselves and asking and feeling, those things will come up. That goes on to our next, my husband and I, after we sold our company, we're like, what are we going to create? How are we going to help the world? Now that we're good financially, what do we want to do to give back to the world?
Well, speaking of social impact, right?
Yeah.
And it's, how can we really make a difference? And we see people struggling emotionally. You got depression, anxiety, suicide rates, people not knowing, feeling disconnected from who they are. And so we are working on something right now, helping individuals find their passions, their gifts, a strength finder basically, and each individual taking, let's say, a test that we've developed that is helping them discover what they were born with. And if you look at the way that we're educated today, you'll look at, like, let's say my daughter's struggling with math. We'll double down on the math. We got to get you a math tutor and focus on the math, where maybe math isn't her gift, but art or music or anything else, writing, reading could be her gift. But we don't focus on that because she's not struggling in that. But if we double down on the gift, and this girl is just talented, she's passionate about this, let's just give her every opportunity to develop this. By the time she's in high school and then college, she'll know what's natural to her, and she will not waste her college experience trying to figure out who she is, what she likes, going from major to major, trying to figure out what she wants to do with her life. Like, she'll have a path already in place, which will help her be free of those emotional anxiety. She's already so living in herself and that passion that she'll avoid a lot of the emotional problems that kids are facing with the anxiety and depression.
I'm so fascinated by this. Can we do another podcast when that test is ready and test ourselves?
I've taken it. Yes, the test is ready. Yes, the test is out there. It's now developing the track for each gift and getting children and adults, everyone on this track, the training that goes with it to get them developing their gift.
Right.
And that goes back into feeding into the natural inclination of things rather than focusing on what's missing.
What's missing? What's wrong with us? Why are we
Right.
broken?
Well, and
Why aren't we
there's-
perfectly whole?
There's
you
just so much noise out there, right? Like, let's focus on
what you're good
what's
at.
innate, what's natural.
Because really, we are all given a gift. Every person on this planet has a gift.
And many gifts.
Many, yeah. If you develop one, you've got, then another one's coming up and another one's coming. But like, if you could focus on one gift and feel that confidence and that purpose in that gift, you'd have everyone doing their job would be so happy and fulfilled. I don't care if you're serving food or you're saving lives or whatever it is, you'd be so happy in doing that because it's your gift, and you'd be fulfilled, and there'd be a perfect amount of waitresses and doctors and attorneys, and everything would be in balance.
Because there wouldn't be a judgment on that's not good enough, right?
Yeah, you're doing what is just true to you and
love
loving it. Whether it's
love
doing the
it.
dishes at your kitchen sink and folding laundry in our pajamas, like maybe that is that could be enough for someone.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that.
There's one thing that I wanted to say about opportunities, because we're talking about how things kind of happen with ease and it's very natural. But I think sometimes because opportunities and because situations involve other people, like the idea of commitment and resilience is so important when you take on that new opportunity. Things aren't going to be, you're not going to be a success right away. Things are not going to be, you may not be happy. There's going to be dynamics within your, whether it's a work environment or a social environment, that make you uncomfortable. And I think, if you had the right criteria to decide that this is an opportunity for you, and having that right criteria depends on, that self-awareness and self-knowledge that we talked about, then you just have to kind of see it out, have commitment to that opportunity. It might be several months, it might be a couple years. I mean, for this TV thing that I did in China, I was not a broadcaster. I didn't have experience being on camera. I was interested in documentary production. I was a management consultant in healthcare. I mean, something completely different. So it took a few years for me to feel really comfortable in, you know, in this new role. And hence, like, here comes this opportunity, you know, and 15 years later, you know, it was really successful, and I could really look on it fondly. But that's what growth is. Growth is uncomfortable. Sometimes it just is uncomfortable, and you have to put yourself there to grow.
Well, and speaking of next things, you did this Al Gore summit last year, and now you're working with a bunch of the municipal leaders here. Can you tell us a little bit about what's coming up?
So in October 2nd to 4th, we are holding Mountain Towns 2030. Mountain Towns 2030 is essentially, it's a coalition of mountain towns throughout Mountain West and nationally who are going to come together to commit to aggressive carbon reduction targets. As most people here in the Park City community know, Park City and Summit County, they have been, I mean, truly pioneers. Some of the legislation that was just passed in March, the Community Renewable Act, community renewable legislation, it's kind of unprecedented. It turned Utah, which is, you know, where the state rock is coal, and it's going to give these options of communities throughout Utah to actually opt out of renewable energy, and that opt-out piece is really huge. So Park City has a goal by 2022, all citywide operations will be carbon neutral, and by 2030, the entire community will be. And that the linchpin of that is this Community, you know, Renewable Act. I hope I'm saying that correctly. But anyway, so we're bringing communities together to collaborate, to convene, to collaborate, to share solutions, and to make commitments. So we'll have elected mayors and city council members from communities like, you know, Vail and Bozeman to come together and, you know, the snowpack is our livelihood. And great, okay, in 20 years, maybe we won't be able to, you know, there won't be snow on the base of Park City. That's terrible for us. Well, think about, I mean, I kind of always think the bigger picture. Think about the, you know, the many countries or developing areas aside from the US where it relates to water scarcity. It's going to create displacement. And then, you know, it kind of, it snowballs and into, you know, war, refugees, and whatnot. So,
but I love that your background somehow has been this perfect mix, and you're like a dark horse, just kind of coming out to be involved
and I was,
in
you know, I mean, frankly, I was opportunistic. You know, I went to this climate reality when the climate reality group that I was working with found out that I was moving to Park City. I was meeting with them in Beijing, and they said, you have to come to the next conference we're having, which is in Denver, because all Park City, the mayor will be there, and some city council members will be there. And that's when I connected with them. And when I came here, I sent an email to Mayor Andy, and we talked about, you know, some type of conference like this. Yeah, it's going to be an amazing conference. We have Jane Goodall, who's going to come to be the keynote speaker, and that is going to be on the evening of October 2nd. And we have decided to open that up to the community, so there will be tickets that will be sold for the community. It's going to be amazing.
Connection as well, right? Yeah. Because she was on your program in Beijing.
Yes,
right?
She was on my program. So yes, and it just it's kind of, you know, it was a gift. I heard that she was coming, and this was for the Wasatch Speaker Series last year, and so I contacted a friend, and I just thought, you know, Park City is one of these communities, you know, we're so in tune with nature and the environment, and what a gift to have Jane Goodall come and speak to, you know, the youth, you know, the entire community. And so I was actually just having a call with Daniel from JGI this morning, and we were talking about how we've been talking for 2 years. But she's coming. It's exciting.
I love how
so
this
exciting.
is
Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is
Thank you.
big.
So I think we're going to wrap up. I wanted to thank you both for diving into such an interesting topic that has so many different angles to it, and for living your opportunities and creating them for yourselves and for your families with such exuberance and such positivity, because I think it really makes a difference. Did you want to share any social media or ways that people can contact you or find things that you're passionate about?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to have us on your podcast and your show. This has been wonderful. And if I there's one area where I've been terrible at creating opportunities, and I'm just terrible at social media. And I don't have a Twitter handle or any of this. I do have China
same.
WeChat. So, yeah.
Is there a website for this?
We do. We have a website for Mountain Towns 2030. It's mt2030.org, and that is being updated. And soon we'll have all the program and speaker information. So I hope the Park City community comes out and gets inspired by Jane.
Awesome.
Yeah, and you can reach out to me on yellowbeauty.com, and yellow is spelled with 2 O's, YELLOOW. It's Woolley backwards, my last name backwards. Beauty.com.
That's great.
I wanted to thank Park City TV for being our media sponsor and give a shout out to them for believing in empowering women through these great conversations. You can find more about Wild Women Tribe at wildwomentribe.net. We have a whole host of different events and opportunities that unite women through the outdoors, so come check that out. And we hope that you tune in next time to the Ignite podcast. Thank you.